Welcome to a tale that weaves the threads of fortune-telling, poison, and cold-blooded murder. Our protagonist, or should we say antagonist, is the enigmatic Tilly Klimek. Born into the bustling immigrant life of early 20th century Chicago, Tilly Klimek found herself navigating the challenges and opportunities of a new world. As she found her place in this bustling metropolis, she began to carve out a unique reputation, not as a cook or a seamstress, but as a fortune-teller. Her neighbors would whisper about her uncanny ability to predict events, to see into the future. She would sit, surrounded by the curious and the hopeful, her every word hanging in the air like a prophecy. To her community, she was a beacon of wisdom, a guide in uncertain times. Yet, as we'll soon discover, there was much more to Tilly Klimek than meets the eye. But beneath her seemingly harmless facade, a sinister secret was brewing. Tilly Klimek, a fortune-teller by reputation, had a knack for predicting death, a bit too accurately for comfort. This immigrant woman, living in the heart of Chicago in the early 20th century, was not just a seer of the future but also a harvester of lives. Convicted for the poisoning of her husband, Tilly's dark tale doesn't stop there. She was suspected of causing the demise of up to 14 individuals. Imagine that, 14 souls potentially snuffed out by a single person. Each prediction of death she made was like a chilling prelude to a tragic finale. Her victims, often close to her, would fall mysteriously ill, their lives gradually fading away. The cause? Arsenic, a deadly poison that she administered with a cold, calculated precision. But as the death toll rose, so did suspicion, and eventually the law caught up. The end of Tilly's reign of terror was in sight, but the mystery surrounding her heinous acts was far from over. In 1923, Klimek's grim dance with death was halted, as the law finally intervened. The whispers and suspicions that had been swirling around Klimek finally reached the ears of the authorities, and she was arrested. A thorough investigation was set in motion, probing into the mysterious deaths that seemed to follow her like a shadow. One by one, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The common thread that tied all her victims together became apparent: arsenic. This deadly substance was unearthed as the cause of death in each case, painting a chilling picture of the fortune-teller's macabre methods. Her ability to predict the demise of those around her was no mystical gift, but a calculated, cruel act of poisoning. The evidence was damning, and Klimek found herself facing the full force of the law, her own fortune no longer in her hands. And so, the fortune-teller's own fate was sealed. In a courtroom packed with curious onlookers, the fate of the infamous fortune-teller was about to be unveiled. The trial had been a spectacle, with the prosecution presenting an ironclad case. The evidence was damning. Arsenic, the silent killer, had been found in the bodies of her victims. The court was abuzz as the jury retreated to deliberate. It didn't take long. The verdict was unanimous: guilty. The room fell silent, save for the gasps of shock and whispers of satisfaction. Tilly Klimek, the woman who had predicted so many deaths, was sentenced to live out the rest of her days in prison. The year was 1923, and the woman who had once held the power of life and death in her hands was now stripped of her own freedom. And so, the woman who foretold the end of others found herself confined within the cold, hard walls of a prison cell. Tilly Klimek, the fortune-teller turned murderer, left behind a legacy that continues to intrigue and horrify. A woman of many faces, she was at once an immigrant, a fortune-teller, a wife, and a murderer. Her story is a chilling testament to the darkness that can lurk beneath the most ordinary of faces. Klimek's case stands as a significant milestone in the annals of early forensic science. It was her case that saw the crucial use of arsenic detection techniques, which ultimately led to her conviction. This case, in its own grim way, contributed to the advancement of crime-solving techniques that are still in use today. Moreover, her story forces us to confront the disturbing reality of female serial killers, a topic often overshadowed by their male counterparts. It also highlights the clash between superstition and crime, particularly within immigrant communities, where cultural beliefs can sometimes blur the lines between right and wrong. Tilly Klimek, a woman of many faces, an immigrant, a fortune-teller, a wife, and a murderer. Her tale, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the most ordinary of faces.